You might not want to stand right there.
Sorry.
All right. Look out, plant. Sound, we ready? Ooh! There is something about that sound. That breaking of the speed of sound, the sonic boom. What must it have been like for the people that invented the whip to hear that explosion of air out of nothing? Now, the whip has been the symbol of power, leadership, and authority for as far back as the ancient Egyptians. And maybe because of that shared history between the whip and leadership, some similar myths and mythology have evolved and developed. Think about what's the method or the myth of the whip. The myth of the whip is that it's used to hit and to punish. That's just a myth. If you hit an animal that weighed over 1,000 pounds, wouldn't that just tick them off? Personally, it's nothing I want to do. The truth about the whip is that it's a signal. It's used to herd cattle. It's not used to injure. It's an attention getter. Did I get your attention? It's a feeling of power. Yeah, the same thing about leadership. The myth of leadership, that it's about power and authority and control. The Employment Law Institute in 2007 found that 44% of American workers reported working for or with a supervisor that was abusive. That same year in 2007, the Institute for Corporate Productivity went out and surveyed 338 organizations. 44% of them had zero training for new leaders. People get promoted into leadership all the time. Without any training and guidance, they revert to the myth. It's about control and telling people what to do, and when they don't, punish them. So why am I standing up here with a whip telling you that? That's a crazy thing to do. Well, in my teaching, I like to do things like skill objects, juggling and ball spinning and boomerang throwing and whip cracking. And I like to look at those objects that require skill and think about what can I learn from them to use it as a teaching tool. And when I looked at the whip and I learned about how it works, it made perfect sense that it had lessons to teach us as leaders. First of all, we have to get a handle on it. From the handle, as we move that wave of energy forward, it goes from 20 miles an hour that your hand moves, and because it gets thinner and thinner and thinner, it has to go faster because there's less mass to move. So that by the very end of it, the tip of it, it's going 768 miles per hour, the speed of sound, and boom, an explosion. What would it be like if a leader could get their group focused and all their energy moving in the same direction? I'd like to see that. I've been on a few groups that have actually done it. It is exciting. It is a feeling of power, but it's a different power. So how can we do that? I'd like to offer to you the whip methodology. First of all, the first step of the whip method is what? What are we working on? What are our goals? What are our targets? If I went to where you work on Monday morning and I got people to come in for 5 minutes, one at a time, and I asked everybody that works with you and in your department, a year from now, what are the 5 most important things that you would point to say, this is why I know this department's doing a good job? What are those criteria for success? If I went there and had that conversation, would I hear the same 5, 4, 3 measures of success from everybody? If not, that's diffused energy. People are pulling your organization and your department the ways that they think it ought to go. But if we're not on the same page, we're diffusing our energy. That conversation, that agreement doesn't happen by accident. Probably the leader is the person that has to bring the group together to have that conversation so that we all get on the same page. Not easy to do, but important to do. If we never have that conversation, we just assume everybody's working toward the same goal, and we all know how to spell assume. We almost never have the conversation about how we agree to work together. How do we treat each other? What does professionalism mean? How do we run our meetings? There was a group in history, though, that did do this. People like Edward Teach, who was captain of the Queen Anne's Revenge from 1716 to 1718. He was a pirate. He was Blackbeard. Pirates of that era were known to meet in port before they went out on their voyage and to have the conversations and to set standards of behavior. They called it the Brethren of the Coast, or the custom of the coast. Common standards of behavior, because each ship made their own rules, but common ones that they all seemed to have were no hitting and striking another member of this crew while on board ship. No gambling with cards or dice for money. No abandoning your buddies in times of battle. And they voted on this and they signed on it. They even went so far as to have insurance policies. And when they voted on it, every member of the crew had one vote in affairs of the moment. The only time the captain had command and control was during a battle. It was very democratic. It was very unusual how we worked together. In my 30 years as a trainer and a consultant, I have run across very few groups that have really sat down and had that conversation, and it's about how we say we want to work together, not someone telling us how to work together. Once they're all moving toward the same what or what's, and we agree on how we're going to treat each other and hold each other accountable to that, then it's about motivation. The research is really clear on motivation for the last 50 years. Daniel Pink's TED Talk on it is in 8 minutes that every manager ought to spend watching. It's really, really clear that if we want intelligent behavior, it's not about paying them more money. It's about autonomy, mastery, and purpose. But why do we think it's money? Because it's easy. Just pay them more money. But then we get that mentality of telling them, because we paid them, what to do and how to do it. Didn't Jeff Gable talk about that this morning? Creatives will do great work for you up to the moment you tell us what to do. He hit it spot on. That's exactly what it is. Autonomy and mastery takes time because it means we're invested in our workers. We're invested in the folks that we're now a team member with. It's not about how well I do as a leader, it's about how well we do. We help them figure out what are the skills and talents we need to accomplish the goals that we're after. And then we help them develop mastery. And then we inspire and instill that confidence to take it. And as they get better and better, they earn autonomy and more input and more control of where we're going. And once we have everyone moving in the same direction and that energy is called out, that's what the leader is, like the whip. We're calling out the signal, move here, move there. Remember that we're all moving toward this same target. And then finally, it's about the purpose. It's about making that Steve Jobs thing he talked about. What's the ding in the universe you want to make? Everybody wants to make their ding in the universe. I was here. We were here. The leader can then remind us every day what we do is important and it's contributing something back to the greater good. That's real motivation. We all can have a part in this. What would it be like if we could get leaders focusing and using this mindset instead of the old mindset? So I want to leave you with two thoughts. One is from a German philosopher named Goethe. Whatever you can do or believe you can do, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. And then my last thought is from the band Devo. Whip it good. Thank you.